Welcome to Real English Voices. Today, we are diving into the one topic that every single English learner dreams about. It is that magical moment when you stop translating in your head and you finally start thinking in English.
Oh, this is the big one, Tom. This is the holy grail. I remember for years, I felt like I had a translation machine stuck in my brain. Someone would say hello, and my brain would have to process it, translate it to my native language, think of an answer, translate that answer back to English, and then finally speak. It was exhausting.
It sounds like doing math while trying to run a marathon. It takes so much energy. I think that is why so many people feel tired after speaking English for just 10 minutes. Their brains are working double time.
Exactly. You feel physically drained. And the worst part is the delay. You know that awkward silence when someone asks you a question and you just stare at them for 3 seconds because your internal translator is buffering? I hated that feeling. I felt like I wasn't showing my true personality because I was so slow.
So the big question is, how did you change that? Because sitting here talking to you now, Ria, you are so fluid. You react instantly, you laugh at jokes immediately. It is obvious you aren't translating anymore. How did you make the switch?
It was a journey, Tom. And I want to be honest with our listeners right now. It did not happen overnight. I didn't wake up one Tuesday and suddenly have an English brain. It was a series of small, intentional habits that I forced myself to do until they became natural.
I love that you use the word forced because I think people wait for inspiration, but actually you have to push through the discomfort at the beginning. What was the very first step you took?
The first step was what I call the naming game. It sounds childish, but it changed everything. I realized that my environment triggered my native language. I would look at a table and think of the word for table in my language. So I started labeling my reality.
You mean literally labeling things, like with sticky notes?
I did this sticky note thing for a week, and that helped. But I mean mentally labeling. I would walk into my kitchen and force my brain to acknowledge everything in English. I would look at the fridge and say, refrigerator. I would touch the counter and say, counter. I would pick up a spoon and say, spoon.
That is interesting, because you're bypassing the translation. You aren't seeing the object, thinking of the native word, and then translating. You're connecting the object directly to the English word.
Precisely. That is the key connection. You have to wire your brain to associate the physical object with the English sound. But I quickly realized that naming single words wasn't enough. I needed sentences. I needed flow. So I moved to the next level, which makes you look a little bit crazy if anyone sees you doing it.
Oh, I think I know what you're going to say. Did you start talking to yourself?
I became my own best friend and my own narrator. I started narrating my life like I was the main character in a movie. If I was making coffee, I would say out loud, I am taking the cup from the shelf. I am pouring the hot water. The water is very hot. Now I am stirring the sugar.
And you did this out loud?
If I was alone, yes, absolutely out loud. If I was on the bus or at work, I did it in my head. But the rule was I could not use my native language. If I didn't know a word, I had to describe it in English.
That is a crucial point. Many learners get stuck when they don't know a specific word. They stop thinking in English and go back to their native language to find the word. But you're saying you stayed in the English channel.
I refuse to switch channels. This is so important, Tom. Let's say I wanted to say, I am looking for the spatula, but I didn't know the word, spatula. In the past, I would have stopped and looked it up. But in my narration exercise, I forced myself to say, I am looking for the tool used to flip the eggs.
That is brilliant. That is actually how fluent people speak when they forget a word. We describe around it. We don't just stop talking.
Exactly. It kept the flow going. It taught my brain that we don't need to be perfect to keep thinking in English. We just need to keep moving forward. It took the pressure off. And honestly, it was kind of fun. I felt like a radio host describing my boring life. Ria is now opening the door. She is walking down the street. It is a sunny day.
I can imagine that eventually this narration starts to merge with your actual thoughts, because thoughts are essentially just talking to yourself silently.
That is exactly what happened. After about 3 or 4 weeks of narrating my actions, I noticed something shift. I was walking to the bus stop, and I thought, I hope the bus isn't late. And then I stopped walking. I froze. I realized I hadn't translated that thought. It just appeared in English.
That must have been such a cool moment. A realization that the software in your brain had finally updated.
I almost cried, Tom. It was just a simple sentence about a bus, but it felt like freedom. It meant the barrier was breaking down. But I have to tell you about the emotional side of it, because that is where the real deep work happens.
Go on. What do you mean by the emotional side?
Well, naming objects and narrating actions is logic. It is mechanical. But we humans are emotional creatures. We think in feelings. I realized that when I was angry or really happy or frustrated, I would instantly snap back to my native language.
That makes sense. Emotion is primal. It goes to the deepest part of your brain, which is usually your first language. How did you penetrate that level?
I started having fake arguments in the shower.
Okay, I love this. Please explain. Who were you arguing with?
Everyone. My boss, my friends, imaginary people. The shower is the best place to learn English because you are relaxed and no one can hear you. I would act out emotional scenes. I would pretend I was angry about a deadline, and I would express that anger in English. I would say, I can't believe this is happening. This is so unfair. I need more time.
You were connecting the feeling of frustration directly to English words.
Yes, I had to teach my brain that English isn't just a subject I study in a textbook. It is a language for feeling. It is a language for fighting. It is a language for loving. Once I started doing that, English became part of my identity, not just a skill.
That is profound. I think a lot of learners keep English in a box labeled study or work. They don't let it into the box labeled my life.
You hit the nail on the head. You have to let it in. And another thing that helped me massively was changing how I consumed content. You know how everyone says, watch movies in English?
Yes, it is the classic advice. Watch movies, listen to podcasts like this one.
But most people watch with subtitles in their native language, or even with English subtitles. I stopped using subtitles entirely for short clips.
That sounds terrifying for a beginner. Did you understand anything?
At first, no. It was just noise. But I forced myself to just watch the faces, the body language, and listen to the tone. I stopped trying to translate every word and started trying to understand the gist, the general vibe. When you rely on subtitles, you are reading, not listening. And reading is a form of translation. You read, you process, you understand. When you take the text away, your brain has to hunt for meaning in the sound itself.
It creates a survival need. Your brain goes, uh-oh, I need to understand this to know what is happening, so it works harder to connect the dots.
And that is when the guessing game begins. Thinking in English is largely about being comfortable with guessing. When you listen to your native language, you don't hear 100% of the words. You hear 80%, and your brain fills in the rest automatically. I had to train my English brain to fill in the gaps without panicking.
I think without panicking is the key phrase there. Panic is the enemy of fluency. Panic shuts down the thinking process.
Absolute panic mode is what happens when you try to translate and you miss a word. The whole system crashes. But when you're just flowing and guessing, you stay relaxed. I remember watching a cooking show. I didn't know the names of the ingredients, but I watched him chop the vegetable and throw it in the pan. And I thought, okay, he is cooking the green things. That was thinking in English. It was simple, it wasn't perfect, but it was direct.
So we have naming objects,
narrating your day, emotional role play in the shower, and removing subtitles to force intuition. These are all active things. Did you ever feel like your brain was resisting, like you just got a headache and wanted to stop?
Oh, constantly. There were days where I literally told myself, I cannot do this today. And that is okay. I think we need to normalize taking breaks. But I never let the break last more than a day. I would switch to something passive, like listening to music in English.
Music is great because it gets stuck in your head. Do you find that songs help you to think in English?
Music is a cheat code because you don't memorize the lyrics, you memorize the melody, and the words come with it. I would catch myself humming a song and thinking about the lyrics while I was doing dishes. That is a form of thinking in English, too. It keeps the rhythm of the language alive in your mind.
I want to go back to something you said earlier about the translation machine. A lot of our listeners are probably stuck in that phase right now. They are listening to us, understanding us, but they know that the moment they try to speak, the machine turns on. If they could do just one thing today to start turning that machine off, what should it be?
If I had to pick just one thing, it would be the 1-minute monologue.
The 1-minute monologue. I like the sound of that. How does it work?
Set a timer on your phone for 60 seconds. Pick a random topic. It could be my shoes, or the weather, or why I like pizza. Hit start and just talk. Do not stop. Do not correct yourself. Do not apologize for grammar mistakes. Just produce language for 60 seconds.
And if you get stuck?
You say, I am stuck. I don't know what to say. This is hard, but I am keeping talking. You just keep the vocal cords moving. What this does is it forces your brain to prioritize speed over accuracy. The translation machine is slow because it wants to be accurate. The 1-minute monologue forces you to be fast. It breaks the habit of perfectionism.
It's like a sprint for your brain. You don't have time to look back.
Exactly. And the first time you do it, it will be terrible. You will feel silly. But if you do it every day for a month, you will notice that the hesitation between your thought and your speech gets smaller and smaller.
I imagine it builds a lot of confidence, too, because you realize, hey, I spoke for a minute and I didn't die.
Yes, you survived. And that survival builds the confidence to try it in the real world. You know, Tom, there is one final sign that I knew I had really made it. It's a little bit weird.
Weird is good. We like weird here. What was the sign?
I started dreaming in English.
Wow. That is the subconscious level. That is deep.
I woke up one morning and I remembered my dream. In the dream, I was arguing with a taxi driver about the fare. And I realized, wait a minute, the taxi driver was speaking English, and I was yelling at him in English. I wasn't trying to learn. I was just living in the dream.
That is incredible. It means the language had soaked into your subconscious mind. It wasn't a foreign object anymore. It was part of your software.
It was the best feeling. But I want to tell everyone listening, don't obsess over the dream part. That comes later. Focus on the waking hours. Focus on the small moments. When you look at the sky, don't think the word for sky in your language. Just think blue. Just think cloud. Start small.
I think that is such a relief to hear. You don't have to debate philosophy in English on day one. You just have to acknowledge the color of the sky.
Simplicity is the key. Complexity comes with time. If you try to think complex thoughts in English too soon, you will get frustrated and go back to translating. Keep it simple. I am hungry. I am tired. This coffee is good. Build the foundation with simple bricks.
Ria, this has been so inspiring. I feel like I want to go learn a new language just to try these techniques. It really shifts the perspective from learning a language to living a language.
That is the shift, Tom. You have to live it. Even if you live in a country where no one speaks English, you can live it inside your own head. Your mind is your own private English country. You are the president of that country. You make the rules.
I love that image. You are the president of your own mental English country.
And you can invite people in, or you can just enjoy the scenery by yourself. But you have to show up there every day. You can't just visit once a month.
Before we wrap up, I want to ask you about the fear, because I think fear is what keeps the translation machine running. Fear of making a mistake, fear of sounding stupid. How do you tell the listeners to handle that fear?
You have to make friends with the fear. You have to realize that making a mistake isn't a failure, it is data. When you think in English and use the wrong word, and you correct yourself, your brain actually remembers that correction better than if you got it right the first time. The struggle is what creates the memory.
So embrace the struggle.
Embrace the mess. Thinking in English is messy. It is a chaotic mix of words you know, words you create, and hand gestures. But that mess is where the magic happens. If you wait until you are perfect to start thinking in English, you will wait forever. Start thinking in broken English today. Broken English is still English.
Broken English is still English. That is a powerful statement. It is about communication, not perfection.
Absolutely. And talk to us. We want to hear from the listeners. I want to know, have you ever caught yourself thinking in English? Maybe just one word? Maybe a whole sentence?
Yes, let us know in the comments. Tell us about that click moment, or tell us if you are still struggling with the translation machine. We are here to help you turn it off.
We are all in this together. I was there, I struggled, I translated, and I broke through. And if I can do it, you can absolutely do it. Trust your brain. It is an incredible machine. It just needs the right programming.
Thank you so much for sharing your story today, Ria. It breaks down a huge, scary topic into steps that anyone can take right now, as soon as this podcast ends.
It was my pleasure, Tom. I get so passionate about this because it changes your life. It opens up a whole new world.
It really does. To everyone listening, thank you for being part of Real English Voices. Keep practicing, keep talking to yourself, and remember to label that coffee cup.
Yes. Look at that cup and say cup. Start there.
We will see you in the next episode. Keep your voice strong and your mind open. Bye for now.
See you next time. Bye.